about to start our Eating for Fat Loss Forever workshop, and I'm doing a couple of technical checks right now. So I'm making sure that I'm actually live and that this is going into the proper group. So bear with me. My first time doing this. I'm going to learn a lot today, I have a feeling. Cool. Awesome. All right. I'm going to give it a second to make sure that I'm in the group. It looks like I am. I'm going to finish setting up here. Got my notes, got my whiteboard, got lighting. I know I have a glare, but I'll fix that later. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, I think I have all my material prepared, and I will give it a shot. This is exciting. All right, well, if I send them a link, they can grant them just to see their names. Okay. I'm going to post one more thing to Facebook, and then we'll get started. Huh, cool. All right. So, first of all, thank you for joining me in my production studio at my home. This is my office, and I'm still working at the kinks. But today we are going to do a deep dive on nutrition, specifically how to eat for fat loss now and forever. One of the biggest, almost everybody who talks to me really wants to get in great shape. And at some point in their life, that usually ends up meaning how do I lose some fat? Whether it's out of the midsection, losing a lot of weight or a little, a lot of us, including me, have wanted to burn fat, to feel better, look better, and all the things that come with it. And trainers are always saying things like, abs are made in the kitchen, right? It's not about the fitness program. It's about what you eat and how consistent you are on your food. But with a multi-billion-dollar diet industry and Americans in the worst shape in the history of America, I understand that there's a disconnect between the diet information and diet action, lifestyle change for a day versus lifestyle change for the long haul. And a lot of people have got on new diets and in fact been successful, but couldn't stick with it, or found that the program or the plan that they were eating off of didn't actually either meet their needs, or they couldn't adjust it in a way that they allowed it to be sustainable. So this conversation is meant to be a zoom out, so like a kind of a zooming out and getting a big picture perspective on nutrition and nutrition science and what it is and how it helps us get into better shape, and how to fix the common problems that keep people from getting successful and staying successful in their diet and nutrition plan in the long haul. So I'm going to get into the science a little bit, but I want to keep it practical, and I want to keep it into experiential based things. So I'm going to use a lot of stories and analogies and metaphors, but I will get into the data with you a little bit. And to start, I'm going to use a graph. And in this graph, I'm going to demonstrate what Eben Pagan calls the critical counterintuitive. So whenever you find someone who's being very successful at something in athletics, in business, and problem solving, usually there's some sort of intuitive process that turns out to lead you down the wrong path. and there's what I've heard described as the critical counterintuitive that it almost doesn't make sense. It's an idea that doesn't seem logical, but when you apply it, it produces outsized results. So there's a critical counterintuitive when it comes to diet and fat loss and the metabolism. And I'm going to try and demonstrate it for you with a simple graph and chart. And I'll show you the intuitive method, the common sense sort of by the book method, and then I'll show you the critical counterintuitive idea that will help you unlock your maybe some ideas that might be a little bit stuck around your diet. And then we'll talk about how to apply all that. Most of the conversation today will be on how to apply this, but I do want to get into the perspective. So whether you're eating keto or a vegan or a carnivore or almost anything, there is a tendency to want to, you hear this all the time, like eat less, move more, right? There's a tendency to look at the body and our metabolism and your weight like it's a two-dimensional object in space. And the intuitive way to think about it is that your weight is on the x-axis or the y-axis. X-axis is the calories. And the intuitive way is the more you eat, the more you weigh. And that makes sense, right? And it's often true, right? Like it's very often true. But there's a little bit more to it. It's not the metabolism isn't a closed system. It's not like Newtonian physics where 1 + 1 always equals 2. There is an idea. So the counterintuitive concept with the metabolism is the metabolism itself, which is what we're trying to explain with this graph. It actually affects the system in a very unique way. So with one line, I'm going to draw the critical counterintuitive idea and see if I can draw well. A little arm is giving me a hard time today, so I'm going to go through here. So this is supposed to be a U, say a U-shaped parabola, right? And this actually represents more of the realistic way that the metabolism works. And what this line shows is that there is a point. This is like where you're at right now. Let's call that your metabolic, your center point. There's a point where if you eat more, you gain more weight pretty fast. And then there's a point where if you eat less, fewer calories, you lose weight pretty fast. And then on the other side of the graph, there's a place where if you eat less, you actually gain more weight. And if you eat more, you actually lose weight, right? This is counterintuitive, and that's my point. Oftentimes when we jump onto a diet, we do a 21-day challenge, or we do something where we're working with a coach, we get it dialed in and we eat appropriately for that moment in time where we're at. And what happens is the metabolism adjusts to our new lifestyle and behavior. So your metabolism can shift to get used to smaller calories or fewer calories, and it can shift to get used to more calories and your extra body weight. So this U is you, and you move up and down on this chart in this graph. Not fast. It's not overnight. It's pretty easy to follow if you know what you're looking for and what you're measuring. But this is a more three-dimensional way to think about the body, to think about your metabolism and how we can lose weight, gain weight, burn fat, build muscle in different ways at different speeds at different times with different diets. But I wanted to share that with you, and we'll talk about how to do that right now, because if you're not thinking in that three-dimensional if you're still thinking in the intuitive space where it's one straight line, always true in that fashion, then you're gonna get frustrated, and then you're not gonna understand when your body changes with you as you go. But inside of this graph, the only three things you need to focus on are how much energy you're expending, your BMR. So you're moving, how much you're consuming, your macronutrient ratio. So what are you eating, and how is it making you feel? So the macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. And each of our bodies has a different relationship with those macronutrients. Some people like really high carb diets. Some people like really low carb. Some people like high protein, low protein, whatever it is. But your macros, how much your body is using, and your overall caloric intake, all of those things matter, and all those things affect your metabolism. And accompanying this program was a PDF with all the resources that I use to determine all these things. So you can put your body weight in there and go through calculators and get all the cool numbers and nerd out on spreadsheets if you want to. I do that for my clients, but if you want to get into it yourself, I will share with you all the resources that I use to determine those things so that you can create this for yourself and adjust it on the fly. So this is the sciencey part. This is the data. This is the critical counterintuitive, that instead of a straight line, your metabolism is more like a U. Okay, so with that, piece of the puzzle uncovered, now we're going to talk about the next biggest reason why people do not stay successful for the long haul, and that's going to be adherence, right? Doing it. Now, sometimes when people talk about adherence, what they hear is you're not trying hard, you're not doing enough, you're not putting in the effort to get what you want, so you're not getting what you want, right? You're not doing the work. And part of that is true, right? It does take effort. You do have to plan ahead. You do have to work hard. So there is hard work associated with your goals, but it's also there's a way to approach the concept of discipline and practice that doesn't feel so heavy, that doesn't feel so it doesn't feel so binary, or it also doesn't feel so like good versus bad. Like, I'm good when I do it. I'm a weak person when I don't do it, because there are days when I don't do it, and I certainly wouldn't categorize myself as a weak person. So if you have a piece of paper, you should be hopefully taking notes. But if you haven't yet, now would be the time, because this is the stuff that you're actually going to live and use on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to read the tiny print. I'll talk you through it, but we just went over the scientific part of diet dilemma. Now, what we're going to talk about is, how do you do it? So take out a sheet of paper, and on the top third, write discipline, and on the second third, write bottoms up, and on the final third, write the long-term perspective. And these are the three most common mistakes that I see when it comes to the application of practice and discipline in people's lives and their nutrition plan or their fitness plan, or almost anything around self-care. And with discipline, it's easy to, because of maybe American culture, but also the narratives that are tossed around a lot in on media and sometimes even in the fitness industry. It's about discipline is about pain and hard work and attacking something until you get it. It's about doing the difficult thing, mental toughness and physical toughness, even, and being able to endure trauma and challenge. Which, I mean, maybe there is a piece of that, but resilience is not really the conversation. Discipline, in my opinion, comes from self-love. And if you think about your discipline being derived from self-love, maybe versus self-loathing, but it's from self-love, then discipline becomes about what you get to bring into your life versus what you have to cut out. A lot of people are, it's like the discipline to not drink, or the discipline to not stay out late, the discipline to not eat sugar, whatever it is. But I'll give you an example of how this like applies. I was playing a lot of video games. I recently broke both my arms and a lot of other things. So I was in a lot of pain, and at night it got really bad, and I wasn't sleeping, and I was just sitting there sweating from all of the angst and the physical pain. So I would play video games to keep my mind occupied, or watch TV. I would do something with media, and I would log in and kill some time that way. And it got me through those first few weeks of tremendous pain. And now as I get back to work in my life, there's video games on my desktop, and I was still in the habit of playing video games in the evenings, and I would go past my bedtime, and I wouldn't get that quality of sleep, which I really need. So the discipline, I just uninstalled the games from my computer. And when I did that, I felt so much relief, because I would unconsciously and habitually, I don't have a lot of willpower. I'm an impulsive person, generally. Frequently I'm impulsive. And when I cut out the video games, I just felt this tremendous relief, and my soul was a lot cooler, and I felt more empowered to be the person that I want to be, and to feel better. So I got time back, and I got energy back because of the quality of sleep that I get. And so I got things from the discipline. I don't know why. I got from the discipline set me free and made my life better. So discipline being about what you get to bring into your life versus what you have to cut out. Because I think it's very important. The act of discipline isn't about making yourself tougher. It's about finding a new outlet and a new way to give yourself the catharsis, the comfort, and the feelings that you actually want to feel. I still comfort myself. So at night I have tea, hot tea, read a book, and calm my nervous system down, feel good. I never yank out, pull away a behavior without adding something in to support myself through the transition. So if you're anxiety ridden and you're watching a lot of Netflix, it doesn't mean like turn off the Netflix, and just meditate. Maybe that would help, but do some other things to comfort yourself. Like, talk to a friend, spend some time drawing, get a creative outlet, and then moderate or mitigate the behavior that you want to limit. But when your discipline comes from self-love, that conflict that you feel like I'm losing something or I don't get something when you say no, or what I would say is you're saying yes to yourself anyway. But when you say no to your environment, or you change your environment to make your habits more easy to execute, then there's just less friction, and then you're not as slowed as you go through your health program to get to where you want to go. So discipline is an act of self-love, is a way to think about and reduce some of that friction and pain that you might be experiencing. So what you would write on your sheet of paper is when you think about the habits that you're trying to change. Maybe you want to drink less, or you want to watch less TV, or maybe you want to work out more, or whatever. Instead of writing out all the things you need to do and all the disciplines, write out what you're trying to get, what you want to get from those disciplines. Like if you want to go to the gym more and lift weights, write out maybe I want to be stronger, I want to feel stronger, I want to get more muscle, I want to be more confident in my clothes. And so write out all the upside, write out the things that you're choosing, right? And then the discipline flows naturally from the choice. So the next step will be like, oh, like I just need to wake up 30 minutes earlier to go to the gym, or whatever it is for you. So, there'll be time where you can pause the video. If you're watching on the replay, you can write down the things that you're choosing, and use that as a reframe for your points of discipline. And then the next idea that I want to share with you is discipline as when you think about your practice, like the discipline itself, like the discipline of reading or the discipline of training. When you're thinking about a new practice or habit, think about creating that habit from the bottom up. And what that means to me is what I mean by that is if you're new to batch cooking or new to being on a meal plan or new to being deliberate with your nutrition, then starting your habit with batch cooking 21 meals each week might be a little bit aggressive, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, that's a high level of difficulty and performance. But if you start from the bottom up and you go, well, all right, there's 21 meals a week, but what if I just have a healthy breakfast every day and put the ingredients to that in my refrigerator, and then a couple of breakfast ideas, and then so now on a scale of 1 to 10, instead of having to make 20 meals, you only have to make 6 or 7, really 1 or 2, but alternating days. So now your difficulty level's down here, and the skill is easier to execute, and the feeling of success is immediate because it's easier to execute. You're actually doing it, and then you're feeling better, and then you can stack the changes one on top of the other on top of the other, and build your way up. And if you think about it in reverse, even though you want to achieve the goal, right? So maybe you think, oh, I want to get to the crafting 21 meals a week or working out twice a day every day or whatever your end range maximum goal is. But if you start there, then it's really easy to fail, because if you miss one meal or one workout, you already failed. You're already off program, and you lose momentum easily. It's also physically very difficult to do that, so it takes energy. And your fitness program should give you energy, right? So if what that means is, this is where the roller coaster comes in. If you have to have a lot of energy and time and focus and attention in order to do your fitness program, well, you'll only be successful when your time, energy, and attention is up here, and you're able to give it everything you've got. But life isn't like that. Problems come up, family members, your boss wants you to do things, your customers, your clients, everyone around you has, everyone you care about in your environment, they're going to need things from you. Something comes up with your health, financially, who knows? So if you start from the bottom up and your level of commitment is lower, even though you might have a low energy day, you can still achieve that. And then you do. And then the success and the confidence continues, and you stack. You just step up your program versus step it down. And you can still step it down later if life gets crazy and you have to travel to take care of a family member in the hospital, or you have something going on at work, and you have projects due. Then you can scale it down temporarily, but you want to minimize the roller coaster, and you want to maximize your effectiveness, which is going to come when the more consistent that you can be. That's where your true effectiveness of your plan and program will come to fruition. So what does that look like for you? Pause the video. How could I take what I want to accomplish, what you wrote at the top, the disciplines that you want to create? How do I take those, and what is the minimum, the smallest habits that I can instill that will create those skills and practices? So if it's training, and you want to start doing strength training, maybe it's go to the gym with a friend once a week so she can show you how to lift the weights, or hire a trainer, or whatever it is. But start at the bottom instead of the top, and then you can build from there. So write your bottoms up plan when underneath the bottoms up section of your notes. Finally, discipline as it relates to this perspective of the long term. And this relates to black and white thinking, and this relates to that boom and bust cycle of fitness that we can find ourselves on. Because if you've done the Whole30 or the carnivore diet, or you've been vegan, or you've done something that made you feel really good for a short period of time, and it didn't stick, or you fell off the wagon for whatever reason, it's easy to blame yourself. It's also easy to get discouraged and wait another 30 days or week to get started, because if you're thinking in terms of 30 days, in increments of 30 days, I'm using the Whole30 as an example, but then every time, or the hard 75 is another one where It's a 75-day program. If you miss a day, you have to start over. Those perfection-based mindsets, which are really easy to fall into, where it only counts if I can do it perfectly, then you're going to be in that bipolar binary cycle of being on all the way on or all the way off. The long-term perspective is, and this was happening, like this is what I remind myself if I miss a meal or stay up too late or drink too much or do something that's, not something I normally do. It doesn't make me feel good. But if I fall into an old habit or I make a mistake, I just keep thinking about how many reps it takes to become a master at something. And I'm still learning about how to move my body. I'm still learning how to train as an athlete and as a strength coach. I'm still learning how to coach and teach. I'm still learning all these things that I find really important that I've been doing for years. I've been doing these for 20 years. And even though I spend so much time doing these activities, I'm still learning and I still make mistakes. Sometimes I'll trip and fall when I'm lunging, and I'm just lunging. There's nothing wrong with me. Well, there's a lot wrong with me, but there's nothing wrong with the lunges. And I'll make mistakes and fall. And the thing is it's all part of building up my sense of mastery for these areas. But always striving for excellence, or striving for 1% better in the pursuit of excellence, but never perfection. And I don't expect perfection of myself. I expect myself to be flawed, to make mistakes, to fall off the horse, to fall down on the lunge, and still get back on and get going. But that long-term perspective is like, I'm going to be doing this until I'm 75 or 80 or 100, or by the time that I get to be that old, maybe age doesn't matter anymore and we're all just young forever. But I have this perspective that I'll be doing all of these things. I'll be working on the quality of my relationships. I'll be working on my fitness and my career. I'll be working on them for a long, long time. So one mistake is not going to kill me. I have a friend who has been sober for a long, long time, 22 years, I think. And she was talking about at the beginning, she started when she decided that she wanted to get clean and sober, that she started and she fell down. I mean, for years, she fell off the wagon and had to get back on, fell off the wagon and get back on. But ultimately changed her whole life and became very successful. The point is, it's like, if it's important enough to be working on, it's important enough to keep trying and to give yourself permission to fail at, to get further down the line. That long-term perspective is the thing that I think separates people who are highly successful from everybody else. Tony Robbins quote's going around, and then it's worth saying again, people overestimate what they can do in a year, underestimate what they can do in 10 years. That definitely applies to health and fitness, as I think it applies to everything worth doing. Now, in that sheet that you have, I want you to write down how you're going to implement, or how you're going to take hold of a long-term perspective in your health and fitness. So maybe you're starting a running routine, or maybe you're getting into cooking for the first time. So what are small things that you can do, bottoms up thinking from the next step on the list, that when you burn the steak, or you forget to cook breakfast or dinner or whatever, like anticipate some of the failures and some of the friction that you're going to run into. And so narrate it down. What am I going to do when I wake up late and miss the gym? What am I going to do when I, instead of maybe I don't get a full workout that day, maybe I do 10 minutes of stretching in my living room, the same time that I normally would be training. And then I get right back on the horse the next day. But when you anticipate the failures and you build them into the process, famously, the Navy SEAL commander that was assigned to get bin Laden with the Navy SEALs, the Navy SEAL commander advocated for an older, more reliable helicopter to be used on that mission. And when he was denied, he knew there was going to be helicopter trouble. So in the rehearsal for the mission, they rehearsed what would happen if this helicopter broke down. What would happen if what happened if both our helicopters broke down? And sure enough, in the actual mission, one of the helicopters broke down and crashed, as we know, and they built it into the plan because by anticipating the friction and the failure, they knew they could still be successful and get what they needed done without sacrificing the whole team or the mission or the larger goal. Whew. Okay, so we've covered the critical counterintuitive part of the science. So we've covered the data, and then we've covered the how to do it, in my opinion, the best and most compassionate form of long-term discipline, and how to create that and how to stick with it. And again, if you want the how-tos on all the numbers and the macros and the calories and the science stuff, shoot me an email or a message on Facebook, and I'll get back to you, or text, or however you get a hold of me. And I'll get back to you with a PDF of all the resources that I use to pull out weight, BMR, and how to get those things calibrated for you and your specific goals. So you've got the data, you've got the how. Now all you have to do is figure out what you want and go and get after it. But when you're living that way and you're eating that way over the long haul, it feels better, and you don't get in this transactional mode, in this cycle of I have to give up sugar in order to look the way I want, or I have to give up, hang out with my friends, or I have to work out twice a day in order to look the way that I want. And when you get out of that transactional mindset and think more holistically and long term, there's less stress, better results, lower blood pressure, more high quality relations. Everything feels good, and you'll look good on top of it, which is what the heck. That's why we're all here. Now, if you have any questions, reach out. I will be on the group daily, harassing you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful September. Oh my God, it's almost October. Peace and love. Go Shosh out.